Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Alternative Paper Review, the show that takes the news, the headlines, and smears them all over your wall, forcing you to look at them like some sort of rabid, disobedient primate. Let's try to make sense of the senseless once more. First up to the Daily Mail this morning. Bin strike grinds on as Labour are humiliated. Yes, this is the story that Birmingham Council, you will have heard about the bin strike, right? Seen the footage, lots of bin bags building up, rats, infestation, possibly there will be disease settling in soon. It's the story that negotiations have broken down and those bin men, workers, refuse collection guys, they've rejected a pay deal, meaning that the 21,000 tonnes of rubbish, according to the Daily Mail, piling up on the streets of England's second city will merely be added to now. And normally we sort of go for the snark factor on this paper review, don't we? We sort of, tap into the ridiculousness of stuff, expose the hypocrisy of the right-wing rags. But actually, this is quite an interesting story. What this goes back to, as I understand it, is sort of equality legislation. And what happened was, like, Birmingham City Council, they looked at dinner ladies, and they looked at bin men, and they looked at carers, and they looked at all of these different and disparate skill sets and local authority jobs that they had to pay out for. And they said that in order to stay in line with equality legislation, they would choose to define that this more female-dominated industry or job set over here was now of equal value to this male one over here, which, bin men, right? Tends to be a more male thing. And so, because they're so cash-strapped after 14 years of Torydom, and remember, it is a Labour council in Birmingham, rather than giving all the, say, dinner ladies, nurses, female-dominated industries a pay rise, what they did was they said to the bin men, we're going to have to bring your pay down to the level of the female-dominated industry. So understandably, the bin men were like, well, hang on a second. Like, you signed a contract with me to pay me this amount. So, no, I'm sorry. If you're going to start talking about docking my pay, then we are going to start talking about not showing up for the work that we said that we would do in that same contract. And so now this dispute has gone on, and the strike has gone on, and the rubbish has piled up. And finally, we got to a space yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, where a deal was tabled to the union by the council, the Labour Council, which I suppose is an extension of the Labour government, the Labour Party, and the bin men, who are, absolutely seen to be the workers, the working class, people who Labour should be looking out for. And they've rejected it. They said this doesn't go anywhere near far enough to compensate our workers for the humiliation, the uncertainty, and yes, the financial burden that they've been under. I mean, really, this is a story of decline, isn't it? That's the headline that we keep coming back to on this show. Is there's not enough money to give to these councils to expand the bin collections in line with population in a way that also continues to allow the wealthy and super wealthy to have, low or lower taxes than they should do, and allows corporations to run away and continue to perpetuate this whole kind of, shell company, funneling up the profits, run away from your tax responsibilities kind of ecosystem. And yeah, when you have that starvation of funds and you push these councils to continue to provide services that they actually can't really afford to continue to provide, this is the situation you end up with, is strikes and rubbish and possibly disease. How could the Labour Council and Labour government get enough money to be able to adequately fund these people? Give them all a pay rise? Is there any way we could find a budget to do that? Yes, of course. You could tax the rich, you could rejoin the EU, you could magic the money, you could do quantitative easing, you could tongue-in-cheek sell the Serco app to Elon Musk because he has such a healthy appetite for paying way, way over the odds for completely useless technology. Or you could sell the Falklands for 50 billion was another idea that we wheeled out recently, wasn't it? But no, I don't think any of that will be explored. And so this dispute we'll grind on. Let's grind on ourselves, shall we, to the next paper.
Prince Andrew's a nonce-burger.
Next up to the Times this morning, Miliband signed up to close ties with China on energy. Yeah, this is the latest incarnation of hysteria over China and their involvement in our energy sector. And of course, it's off the back of the British Steel debacle over the weekend, where matters got down to basically the last minute in negotiations. And there was this idea coming out of the upper Labour ranks that China were basically allowing that to reach such a late stage in the negotiations that basically British Steel, Scunthorpe, would run out of materials to keep those blast furnaces going, right? And then it would wind down, and then we would be entirely reliant on China for steel. And so there's this narrative being woven, and I don't know if it's true or not, that, China are out to get us. They want control of our infrastructure. They want to make us reliant, a sort of satellite nation in Europe, reliant on China. Now, China say that's ridiculous because they sell steel all across the globe. Like, frankly, they couldn't really care less if they lose like one customer in Europe. We're not that big of a fish that they would risk diplomatic and geopolitical relations with us with this sort of, sabotage kind of project that Labour seemed to be insinuating they were embarking upon. Anyway, now today, chapter 3 in this story is Miliband signed up to close ties with China on energy, pledged to work together on power grids, ministers questioning relations after the steel furor. And what does this tell us? It tells us that the British state, for many, many years, all the way back to, Cameron and Osborne, the cozying up, the charm offensive that they went on with President Xi. Do you remember all that footage? Cameron taking the Chinese president into a British pub, serving him a pint. Was it a pint of Guinness or something? Like, I don't know what the strategy was there. Like, get him pissed. Get him pissed and then get him to agree that he won't put spy bugs in the prime ministerial cars. And basically, for over a decade, we've been looking to China to invest in our key infrastructure in the United Kingdom, because they could just, like, if they invest, yes, they make a profit out of it, but then we get to be kind of updated and we move with the times. So whether it is Huawei or it's our nuclear power plants or it's our British steel manufacturing sector, like, whoever the Prime Minister has been at that time has looked at the Treasury, at our portfolio, at our billions that we could put into things to update our infrastructure. They've looked at it and they've gone, oh Christ! So it would cost 50 billion pounds. We don't have 50 billion. Is there some way that we could get China to do this? Could we get, like, would it be profitable for them? Would it be attractive for them as businessmen, as investment in Britain? And so now all of that is catching up with us. We all have these concerns over China's footprint in our state-run infrastructure. And what the Times, the Murdochian Times here, are doing is they are seeking to saddle the Labour Energy Minister, Ed Miliband, basically with the blame for all of that. Like it says, Ed Miliband encouraged Chinese involvement in key parts of the UK's critical infrastructure. Like, maybe he did. Maybe he did, guys. But he has only been in the job for, like, what? 8 months now? I mean, how much damage could Ed Miliband have done all of those years when he never had his hands on the levers of power? I mean, how much damage did Ed Miliband do to the British state with that bacon sandwich? God! He's like some sort of devious criminal mastermind, isn't he? Finally, to the Sun this morning. Official. Voters' poll verdict is in. Oh, this is going to be good. This is great. I love when right-wing rags blast out their stories. And it's constantly about broken Britain, right? Everything that they put in the Sun about the Labour government, about their policies that they're rolling out, pretty much all of it will be of an ideological, critical kind of bent, won't it? Because the Sun is owned by Rupert Murdoch again, and it's not exactly, they're not huge fans of Labour, are they? If it's something that Starmer's done badly, of course, you will get Harry Cole front page going, well, it's a right dog's dinner that Keir Starmer's made of this. If it's something that someone else has done badly, it'll be like, well, what does this say about Starmer's leadership? If it's something that they've done well, like, well, yeah, it's good that Labour have got the waiting lists down on the face of it. But flick to page 10, guys, and we'll tell you why the policy itself is only a heartbeat away from Marxist dictatorship. So what have we got? We got a newspaper that blasts out negativity and, every other story is about broken Britain, how your taxes are too high, public services are failing. Very rarely do they mention that most of this can be attributed to 14 years of austerity. And then they put out a poll and they say, well, what do you guys think? What do you think about Britain now that we've soiled your eyeballs with hate and rage every day about how terrible Britain is? Has it sunk in? Have we brainwashed you? What do you think? And that's when we get the results like this. Britain is broken. And that's the voters' poll verdict. Fury at government in red wall seats. UK is going in the wrong direction. Borders, NHS and the economy are failing. And that is the same economy that grew by 0.5% the other day, which, don't get me wrong, I don't think that's amazing. I'm not super impressed by 0.5% growth. But for a newspaper that described 0.25% growth as the economy's going gangbusters, and who described a Tory recession as only technically it's not a real recession, though. I mean, you got to take some of this stuff with a pinch of salt, don't you? UK is going in the wrong direction. I mean, it could be worse, right? America is really going in the wrong direction. I'm glad that I live here. And fury at government in red wall seats, which again is a story of decline, isn't it? It's a story of not looking after the heartlands, the Midlands, up north, which is interesting because it's like polls like this are why you see Keir Starmer writing op-eds in the Daily Express and the Daily Mail saying like, oh, you're right to be angry about the levels of illegal immigrants coming in. This is why you see that stuff. This is why they can't outwardly say, we would love really, really close ties with the EU. We do want to rejoin the EU in the single market. Instead, what you get is a sort of, red wall friendly reflection of that, don't you? Like, hey, kid, like with all the instability in the world, is it a good time to maybe think about rejoining the European Union, do you think? No case for reversing Brexit. Right, yeah, good stuff, Keir. As long as you keep us geopolitically vulnerable by not being part of a bloc, as long as you keep those bloody Eastern European immigrants out, I'm sure everyone up north will be waving their Labour flags, waving their red roses and all of that. I'm sure they will be vociferously supportive of Labour. Or at least the ones who haven't died of the bubonic plague. See you all tomorrow.